Welcome, my friends. I am Dr. Steven Greer, and I am the founder of the Disclosure for Cash project, Disclosure Project. I am also the founder of the Serious Free Energy Project that collected hundreds of thousands of dollars in donations. And I can't really show you what we did with that money. I'm sorry. Yes. But lately, there have been some people on, is it Twitter? Yes, the website, Twitter, who have been very critical of my latest fundraising efforts. So today, I thought I would explain why I need all of that money, okay? First of all, I am the founder of the Disclosure for Cash project. I'm not doing this for free. This has been my full-time job for decades now, okay? And it's been great for me. I've collected millions of dollars to make these films, even though a documentary film doesn't cost that much to make. I can't really explain where the money goes. I will never explain where the money goes. And who are you, Twitter warriors, to ask why I need millions of dollars, okay? I like having millions of dollars. It's probably a bunch of poor people on Twitter upset that I found a great way to praise the cash, okay? What I do is I promise people aliens, and then I sell them an app where they can talk to aliens for $10, and then they never really talk to aliens. Nobody can prove that my app works, but nobody can prove that my app doesn't work, okay? And it costs $10. Just buy the app, you bunch of cheap people, you bunch of losers. Don't even have $10. Buy the app and find out if it works, okay? Somebody in a live chat calling me Dr. Steven Moose Knuckle Greed, out of mind. Shut up. People like my moose knuckle, okay? Especially my wife. Now listen, okay? First of all, we're going to share some things on Twitter because this Truthseekers show host is once again in danger of me sending him a cease and desist letter because he's saying all kinds of stuff, okay? All right, we're gonna share my post from Twitter, and there's some other guy named UFO Truth Digger Anthony G. He's talking a lot of trash. We're going to address the controversy about my latest fundraiser right now, okay? I'm going to show you my post. This is transformative work, and we are educating the public about Dr. Steven Greer's fundraising efforts, okay? This is a fundraiser. Sorry if you don't like it. Now, hold on. We're going to share this clown Stephen Cambion's Twitter, right? And who is this guy? Anthony Truth Digger, Anthony G, the UFO Truth Digger. And he says, anyone want to be Greer's friend for $10,000 or more per person, event attendance, plus a dinner with other major donors and Dr. Greer at the private residence. Note, I did not add or more part. Yeah, real funny, okay? Hey, look, I almost got the same shirt on. It says Dr. Steven Greer, see SETI and Disclosure Project for Cash founder. Okay. Click picture above to watch Dr. Greer. Yeah, it's an urgent message, okay? There's going to be an alien invasion, but it's going to be fake, okay? And I've been talking about this for 20 or 30 years, this fake alien invasion the government's planning. And I ran out of other things to, this alien invasion is imminent, okay? It's going to happen real soon. So I'm holding emergency fundraisers so that I can make a documentary so I can educate the public about this fake alien invasion. Just like I collected, $1 million from my Serious Disclosure Project to educate the public about that alien mummy. Oh, but then it turned out it wasn't really an alien mummy. Well, yeah, it was. It was. The Men in Black got to those scientists, okay? It was an alien, all right? All right, let's read my announcement. Okay, let's read my announcement. Oh, wait a minute. I got to change this. That's not good. I'm supposed to be, wait. There we go. And I also want to thank a Twitter user who generously provided this nice cash background of me raking in all this cash. Because I like cash, okay? It's one of my favorite things. That and aliens. I love aliens and money. That's why I charge money for people to see them aliens. Because I love those two things. Those are my two favorite things. Cash and aliens, okay? If I could, I'd have an alien in my bed made of cash. Oh, that would be awesome. All right. So we're gonna read this. We're gonna read this stuff. Sorry if it's difficult to see on the screen there. I'll read it for you. Disclosure 2.0, April 25th, 1 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time in Phoenix. You get to join me, Dr. Steven Greer, with our special guests, Carol Rosin, spokesperson for Wernher von Braun, who invented the rocket. Yes, constitutional attorney Daniel Sheehan, Paula Harris, who never heard an alien story she didn't think was real, but she's got an expose on a new ET crash retrieval case bigger than Roswell insignificance. Bigger than Roswell insignificance, you say? Wow, that's a lot of hype to live up to. Do you think Paula Harris will live up to that hype? No, of course not. But by the time people figure out it's just another Paula Harris story with bad sources and fake people telling fake stories about some alien crash, I'll already have the cash and I ain't giving it back. Let's see. Chief cosmonaut and astronaut trainer for Russia, Timothy Igorov. Oh, and we're going to have the ambassador of peace, Steven Seagal. Because nothing says alien disclosure like having Steven Seagal at your event. Does anybody remember that story some comedian told about when he got knocked out and he crapped his pants? Great story. I hope that Steven Seagal does not crap his pants at our disclosure event, okay? We're going to tell him that he cannot crap his pants during our disclosure event. Okay. And we're also going to offer proof of man-made UFOs that have staged many hoax alien events that will be presented. After all, for like 20 years now, I've been telling people that the government fakes all those alien invasions and cattle mutilations. Even though I have no proof of any of that, for 20 years I've been telling people that, taking money for conferences, appearances, and disclosure documentaries where I tell everybody that they have biomechanical androids and they hoax it and that they kidnapped a guy from the UN, the guy that runs the United Nations. Yeah, I said that shit and people bought it. It was funny. All right. So there's two opportunities to participate. You can join the webinar, okay, or in person. And that's where the real fun is, friends. You get to hang out with me. And I'm not sure, various people have said on Twitter that this is just something at my house. It's like a very big house party, but you got to pay to attend, okay? I'm not doing this for free. For those attending in person, you will be in a private residence in Scottsdale, Arizona with Dr. Greer. That's me, Dr. Greer. Yeah, you'll be with me, Dr. Greer, for the 20th anniversary of the Disclosure Project, plus 4 more days of presentations that are not available by webinar. Now, this is limited to 20 participants in person because I don't want more than 20 of you morons at my house, okay? I got a huge mansion, kind of a house, but I don't want too many of you weirdos at my house, okay? And these presentations will be the ultimate inside story of Disclosure 1990 through today, with information about how, the who, and the where of secret UFO and ET-related programs and current activities, and a deep dive into CE5 contact.
Well, being young and kind of got on the ground. I hate to admit this now, sort of in the fetal position, sort of like, what is this? And it had this beautiful almond-shaped eye, like deer eyes. But it was an extraterrestrial biological life form. And he came up to me and touched me on my right shoulder. And whatever happened, the electromagnetic effect of it, all my hair, I had more hair then, stood on end completely. And I was totally electromagnetized. And subsequently, we went from there, and in an instant, went on board this craft. And what happened after that is sort of metaphysical, in the sense that we seem to dematerialize and then appear out in space. And I was sitting with these other extraterrestrial beings in a meditative state. And people say, well, what were they saying? I said, it wasn't about saying, it was about being. But what we did was that I was teaching them what it was like for a young man, to be in cosmic consciousness as a human. And then that's where we met. We met in that state of cosmic consciousness. And then we created what's known as the CE5 protocols, the Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind protocols. That's where they came from. And basically I began to practice this ability with them to see them in the mind's eye and then vector them to a location and have an encounter. And they told me that at some point this would be very important to know how to teach other people.
Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. Sorry for the lack of lighting here. One second. So yesterday, we began our journey into this latest Steven Greer money grab. And that's what I'm calling it, because it is essentially Steven Greer is doing these large podcasts now so that he can advertise, so that he can crowdfund another documentary. He needs another $500,000. And we've all been here before. And I would ask you, what benefit has Dr. Steven Greer's documentaries been to the world for all the millions of dollars he has collected to create them? Now, people can argue with me, that's fine. But I would submit to you that he collected something like $1 million for the Sirius documentary, where he would educate the public about that little Atacama humanoid that he claimed was an alien. Now he's backpedaling. I never said it was an alien. No, he just implied it was an alien for a year straight leading up to the film. And then conveniently, the results of the DNA analysis came out just a month or two after the film dropped, that confirmed it was a deformed human fetus, not an alien. And we have been here before. Dr. Steven Greer has the latest grift now is the free energy grift. But Dr. Steven Greer, like many of these grifters selling fake alien and UFO stories, they repeat things in cycles, apparently, because all of these talking points that he used on the Theories of Everything show about free energy, he used before, quite some time ago. I believe the last time that he ran the free energy thing, let's see, that was 2008, where he was running around telling everybody the same things. These free energy devices are getting bought up. People are getting murdered over free energy devices. The cabal, they. Everybody says they. Who's they? Can you give us their names, the people that are keeping free energy from us? Of course he can. This is all conspiracy land gobbledygook nonsense, and he has been doing it for decades now. And, at some point you have to ask yourself, how many millions of dollars does Dr. Steven Greer need? This man has raised millions of dollars for his projects that have done nothing for the so-called disclosure movement. You can argue with me, in 2001, 21 years ago, he did something like credible work. But even that, when you look into it, was not credible work, because some of his so-called disclosure witnesses were people like Clifford Stone, who first claimed that he was part of a crash retrieval program in the United States Army, and he interfaced with aliens, right? But as the years went on, that same person, Clifford Stone, started telling people that he was an alien god, that he was reincarnated many, many times, that he had all these superpowers. Yeah, real credible people that he had as witnesses to his so-called disclosure project. And I'm sorry, but if the guy's first story is that he was part of a government UFO crash retrieval program, and that's all he says, okay, I'll listen. But if the same exact witness starts telling people about all of his superpowers a few years later, and all of his past lives being all these famous people, and talking to Jesus on a daily basis, and he meant in physical, I'm sorry, I'm not going to listen to that person's stories about being part of an alien crash retrieval program, and neither should you. And this is where we get into the money. I have said this before, and I will say this again. When someone is worthy of respect, I give it to them. And here's what I respect about Dr. Steven Greer. He has made literally millions and millions and millions of dollars for the past several decades, and he has provided zero evidence or proof of most of his claims. Zero. He is a fairy tale huckster, period. Where is the evidence? Where is the proof? And I would submit to anyone within the sound of my voice that maybe, just maybe, that instead of making the money talking about these things that have no proof, maybe you should find the proof first and then sell the story with the proof. But we never get that. It's always the horse, the cart before the horse.
Pardon me. The cart before the horse is the way this works. We've got Ross Colt. I'm sorry, I learned how to say his name right. Coulthart. Isn't that great? Ross Coulthart running around telling people in his latest promotional material for his monetized videos, definitive proof of alien technology, all confirmed by this man. Cut to a scene of Michio Kaku. Then we find out there is no definitive proof in his piece. Nothing. Zero. It was one big bluff. That's putting the cart before the horse. And they all do it. Dr. Steven Greer made $1 million or more on this fake alien deformed fetus. This man used a dead baby to scam people for UFO dollars. He is a medical doctor. Shouldn't a medical doctor be responsible and say, you know, before I tell people this is an alien or even imply it might be, and then make $1 million, I'll go and get the DNA tests. Then I'll have the proof that it's an alien before I make any money. Of course not. He did not do that. He put the cart before the horse. Well, maybe an alien. It's very strange. Look at it. It looks like an alien. Big head. Yeah. Yeah, it was a deformed human fetus. And the fact that a slime ball carried around a dead baby with him, trying to make money off of a dead baby. That was a human being. And I believe that even the remains of a human being should be sacred. Let it rest in peace. Bury that thing. No. Steven Greer sees that thing, and the first thing he thinks is, I can make a lot of money off of this thing. I can make a whole lot of money off of this dead baby. And regardless, I don't want to hear any arguments from some of you people. Regardless of what you think, the man made over $1 million off of a dead baby. I'm going to say that again. Dr. Steven Greer, to the best of my knowledge, made over $1 million, or at least collected over $1 million, right, to crowdfund the documentary. Plus, there's streaming fees. You get money when the documentary starts streaming. Plus, there's conference appearances where he talked about that dead baby for how long. Monetized online UFO conferences where people pay. He did live events where he talked about the dead baby might be an alien for how long and collected money the whole way. I think it's a fair thing to say that Dr. Steven Greer, a doctor, a medical doctor, made over $1 million. And by the way, if I'm wrong, Dr. Steven Greer can email me on the exact figures that he made selling the dead alien baby story. That wasn't a story. Feel free to correct me, okay? So I'm admitting I don't have exact figures. I'm making an estimate and an educated guess. But regardless of the exact figure, is it ethical or moral to make even $1 off of a dead baby? Would you go make money off of a dead baby? Should I go find a dead baby and start telling people it might be an alien so that we can make some money here on my show, get some publicity? Would I do that? Absolutely not. I believe that humans are deserving of respect. And for the same reason, I am against things like mummies being displayed in museums. That is a dead human being. They should be given the respect of a proper burial and be left to rest in peace, as all of us would want for our own corpse or the corpse of our friends, family, and loved one. How would you feel if that deformed dead baby was yours, if you were its mother, if you were its father, or let's say if you were its brother or sister, and some UFO con artist grifter that has never proven any of his ridiculous out there claims is running around collecting money, telling people it might be an alien. How would you feel if that was your relative? Now, I realize that that was a very, very mummified old corpse, but it's still a human being. And here's what we lose in this whole story of him grifting off of a dead baby. That dead baby had a mother, had a father, maybe had siblings, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, loved ones, a family. Did Steven Greer think about that when he decided to take a dead baby on a tour around the world to make money, claiming it was an alien? Of course he didn't. So, and also, you know, we have seen this this free energy grift that he is now. Right now, he is going back to the free energy grift, and I just want to make sure that everybody is clear. Go Google free energy scam. Those three words together. And when you're done, come back to me and let me know if you think that free energy is real or a scam. There have been many people who have run what I call free energy scams. David Wilcock is right now running around telling people that he's going to invent a hover car with a free energy engine, you know, a free energy battery. You won't even need to put any fuel in it, and you can power your house from it. Billy Carson ran something called the First Class Space Agency and claimed that he was looking into free energy technologies and space technologies. And he also claimed that NASA was one of his clients, and that turned out to be a completely false statement. But what can we expect from a man like Billy Carson, who claims that he is MIT alumni? Yeah. You know, he took one of those MIT X online courses, I guess. He didn't actually go to MIT, but he claims that he's MIT alumni. He collected an awful lot of money and never produced anything. Dr. Steven Greer had something called the Orion Project, which he started, as best as I could tell, in 2006 or 7, and created a 501c3. Now, I did spend some time today looking into that, and I'm having a great deal of trouble locating any government paperwork for the so-called charity that Steven Greer founded called the Orion Project. I'm going to continue to dig into that, and we're going to get some documents to share, which will shed more light on Dr. Steven Greer's cash grabs and money grubbing. But for now, you know, it's enough to let's check out what he was saying in 2008. And here's why we're doing this. On the Theories of Everything show, his pitch, he always has something that he's selling. He doesn't do an appearance just to do an appearance. At least I haven't really heard. It's always buy my books, buy my documentaries, give me money so I can make another documentary. There's always the pitch, buy my app. By the way, still on our list, I'm looking for volunteers. I want to do a panel show. And all of us on the panel show are going to buy Steven Greer's bullshit app where you're supposed to be able to contact aliens and you know, vector spaceships in while you meditate or something. No, it's transcendental meditation. But Dr. Steven Greer is very, he sells this app, which essentially claims if you buy his app for $10, you can communicate with aliens and you can see spaceships. You can summon them. They'll come and you can film them. And it's a whole thing. I think that the app is bullshit. That's my personal opinion. But someone pointed out, perhaps correctly, that I never purchased the app or tried the so-called CE5 protocols. So we're going to do that. And I'm looking for volunteers, and we will all be buying the app. So you have to be, maybe this is a bad idea because then we're just giving him a whole bunch of money. Maybe I'll just buy the app and do a review. But if you think that if you already have the app, if you've already purchased it, I don't want to give this clown any more money for this fake, what I think is fake nonsense. Contact me if you already own the app. And then perhaps we will all go through and do it for a certain time period, maybe a week. We'll do it every night for a week, for an hour, and have our cameras at the ready, and we'll see if we see some spaceships or if we all talk to aliens. And if not, then I think we should all get our money back. But that's my opinion on this matter. But let me find my fair use banner here. This is fair use. This is a transformative work. We're educating the public about Dr. Steven Greer's charity called the Orion Project from some years ago. And the reason that we're doing this, friends, is like I said, he is once again using the same nearly exact free energy talking points. But in 2008, he was using those talking points, claiming that he was forming a charity that was going to bring the world a free energy device and open source it. Now he's using those same exact, and by the way, he didn't do that. He collected all kinds of money. We're still trying to get to the truth. How much money did he collect? We don't know. We're trying to find out. Dr. Steven Greer could very easily answer the question. And by the way, the first question I wanted asked on Kurt's show that I did send in and they did not ask was, how much money did they collect for the Orion Project and what did they do with all that money? I think, considering he is right now running crowdfunding stuff, then that's a valid question. We should be able to know some of the history of his constant fundraising and where all the money goes before we decide if we want to contribute to his current cash grab, fundraising efforts. I think it's fair. And I'd also like to see an accounting breakdown of every film he's made. How much money did he collect for each of those films? And does he have spreadsheets and receipts to prove what he spent on each of those films? And people have argued with me, that it's what business of it is yours. People want to give him money to make those things. The problem is that he says, I need $500,000 to make a documentary. And then he makes a documentary. And by the way, I've asked many people. Last night we asked Lou Jimenez his opinion on those documentaries. Do they cost $500,000? He said no. He's been in Hollywood. He's an actor. He knows what these things cost to produce. He said, no, that's not those aren't $500,000 documentaries. So it's a valid criticism to say, you said you needed $500,000 to create this documentary, and the documentary looks like something somebody spent $10,000 or $20,000 on. And by the way, I've also asked PBS documentary film producer that created many documentaries for PBS. And he said, no way that's a $500,000 documentary. No way. So could my sources be wrong? Sure. But I've asked many, many people, and everybody says those films don't cost anywhere near what he's telling people they cost. So it's not an accusation. It's a question. The question is, does he collect $500,000 and then pocket whatever is left over that he doesn't spend on the actual production of the films like he claimed he was going to? These are valid questions, and these, again, are questions that I sent in to Kurt from Theories of Everything. Now, we've got a lot of messages, and people are not being kind to Kurt about this whole interview. Many people thought that it was completely softballed and that he shouldn't have had somebody from the UFO podcast there because they host all of the fairy tale hucksters and they're big believers. They don't do real research on the people that they interview and make, because it's all a big con. Okay. That UFO podcast makes money from these people. So they're not going to ask them the hard questions like we're asking tonight, because then they won't get the guests to come on and views will drop. It's very, very shady business, all of this. It is a cesspool of money and disgusting, despicable people willing to lie to people, lie by omission, or play ball. Play ball. That's the best thing. I heard Lou Jimenez say that exact phrase last night. By the way, you might want to check out our talk. I had no idea it was going to go on that long, but he had a lot to unload, and I I was like, oh, we'll just keep going. It's great talk on this whole cesspool called UFOs, right? Check out our channel. It was yesterday's show. So we're going to get into this Orion project. And again, this is a fair use. This is a transformative work, and we are educating the public. It's very important when you hear what I'm about to play for you to juxtapose this that he was saying in 2008 against what he was saying in this latest interview, because he's going back to, I need all this money for free energy stuff. He did this before, and he produced nothing out of it. Oh, you know what? Let me do that one more time, friends. This is him in 2008. And this is a transformative work. We're going to be talking about and critiquing and discussing the video that we are sharing. And we're using this video to educate the public about Dr. Steven Greer's money grabs. Charities and collecting money for charities in the past, right? Here we go. Big production here, right? He's the project director.
Well, the Breakthrough Campaign is an idea that within a 60 to 90 day period, with enough people participating, we should be able to raise around $3 million to open this research campus, to bring people together to create the one or more of these robust demonstrators that are putting out over unity electromagnetic electricity and energy. The donations that are tax deductible are going to a nonprofit. The nonprofit would develop these technologies.
Great. So we'd like all the paperwork. I want all the paperwork from your nonprofit, because how long did you collect money for this? How much money did you collect, and what did you spend it on? When you form a nonprofit, you are required by United States federal law to file a 990 form every month. Now, I will tell you, I might be just coming up empty because I don't know the system well enough, but I tried. I can't find any of the 990 forms, none of them. If anybody familiar with IRS and all of that can help me, we would appreciate any help. Yeah, I can't find them, but I'm sure I do recall him doing these pitches and collecting money for quite some time for that. What happened to all the money?
And would have assigned to it any sort of rights. But as a nonprofit, it's not allowed to sell products. It would then license that technology out to any groups that we felt were going to be able to get it out further. And we think that ultimately then any source of revenue that would come from it could then go back into the nonprofit to get these technologies further developed and educate the public about them and disclose them, but also get them to these areas that are.
Did you notice that? So in 2008, he was collecting money to educate the public about the free energy technology. But more than that, they were going to build a lab. They were going to create a device and open source it so that the world would be saved from the evil cabal and the energy cartel that was covering these things up. Friends, this is 2008, that's a long time ago. And he wasn't able to do it then, but he wants another $500,000 so he can educate the public again. Great.
Have a lot of environmental and energy needs, but where there's a lot of damage happening to the environment. There are certain key areas where these need to get out quickly, and they're not going to be able to be done through the usual model of selling them. They're going to have to be working with international relief and development agencies and be gifted. And that's where the proceeds of those technologies would then be placed. In fact, the regular company, Arrow, if it develops these, the main interest in Arrow would be assigned to the Orion project so that the profits from any of that would go back into that foundation to do the same work.
And Arrow never produced anything. They never produced a working prototype. They never even produced any plans that they could show people or a technology demonstrator. To the best of my knowledge, they produced nothing. And this is more complicated and shady than I have time to describe here.
So that's the idea behind that. No one involved with this project are doing it with any financial need. Everyone involved don't need the financial reward from this. We're more interested in getting this project done for the planet.
Great. So since you and all the people involved in the project don't have any financial need, then, and you produced nothing, you should still have all of that money, right? You can show us a bank account where all that money still sits, right? You just said nobody has any financial need. None of you are doing this for the money. What happened to all the donations? It's a very simple question. Can we get an accounting breakdown of it?
And fixing the environmental energy crisis, because there's not a lot of time left in our view. I think that even the last UN scientific study on global warming, they found that the rate of decay of the environment is exponentially accelerating more than they thought it was based on their previous models. So each
Yeah, and isn't this this is pie in the sky gobbledygook nonsense. It's a fantastical story. He's gonna just give him money, his charity money, and they're going to develop this free energy technology. They're going to gift it to third world countries where there's a lot of environmental damage. They're going to fix the whole environment with this. This one man is so important that he's going to literally be the savior of Earth. You know, he's going to stop us all from having to work. We'll all have free energy. They're going to fix the environment. And what did he do? He collected a lot of money and nobody knows where any of the money went. So this is a problem. This is a huge problem, especially because he's now fundraising for free energy again. But this time, instead of being so bold as to saying he's going to save the earth with the money somehow, now he's just saying he's going to produce a documentary to educate the public. Well, didn't you just said that you were collecting money to educate the public back in 2008? Now we need another $500,000. He needs another $500,000 to do it again, friends. And as to the best of my recollection and knowledge, he produced nothing from this Orion project. Nothing. We have nothing. There's a website with 12-year-old news on it.
Time they do a study, the condition is worse and worse and worse. So we feel that we're in sort of a global environmental and energy emergency.
Did you see that? Every time he's raising money, it's an emergency. This is an emergency. You got to give me money. This is an emergency, friends. You got to send me money. We're in an emergency. Does anybody recall the last film that he crowdsourced was another emergency? The government is going to pull a fake alien invasion on us, and this is an emergency. And I need money so I can educate the public about this. This guy is great. This is the best UFO huckster on planet Earth. And the fact that he has been able to evade any kind of scrutiny about these things. Ask yourself this. Who is asking Dr. Steven Greer this question? How many UFO podcasts have you seen him on? Why didn't the third phase of fake idiots ask him about all these money grabs when they had access to him to do a documentary? Why doesn't that UFO podcast have him on to explain where all this money, $500,000 at a shot that he keeps collecting, keeps going? Why doesn't any UFO podcast or show that he's on ask him for some accounting records for this Orion project from 2008 that he collected, to the best of my knowledge, over $500,000 for? That's what I was told by a source I trust, over $500,000, and did nothing. Nothing. What did everybody get for that $500,000, Dr. Steven Greer? Now he wants another $500,000 so that he could make a documentary. Why didn't he make it the documentary back in 2008 when he had all that money he was collecting for this project? If his goal truly was to educate the public about free energy devices, why didn't he use the money from his then charity in 2008 to make that documentary and educate the public? What did he do with that money? Now he needs more money so he can educate the public. This is like, every time I think like that this guy can't get any slimier, all I have to do is check in on what his latest money grab is, and it gets slimier. Great. So we're going to stop that, and we're going to go to the Kurt interview. But I do have to say a few things, and here's what I would like to say. I understand people who are very disappointed. I got a bunch of emails, and people were very disappointed by that email, or excuse me, by that interview, who wanted somebody to ask Dr. Steven Greer hard questions. And I have to be very honest. I always am with my audience and tell you, I can ask these questions, but if he won't come here and answer them, there's nothing I can do. He won't reply to messages sent to him with these questions. And Dr. Steven Greer has a rule where, like, you have to have 100,000 subscribers at least, or he won't do anything with you, because he has to be able to pump whatever he's promoting or selling at the time. And I suppose it's not worth it to Mr. Moneybags to come to a small channel that's asking real questions. It's not worth it to him, or it's his cop-out excuse for why he won't do an interview with me. Some people also on this Kurt interview mentioned to me that they wished it was me instead of this UFO podcast. And hell yeah, so do I. And I can tell you, I thought a lot about that. And if I was given that opportunity, I would remain composed. I wouldn't yell and scream at him like some people may think. I would remain composed, and I would calmly ask him the same questions that I'm asking tonight. I did submit these questions, but Kurt may have felt that those questions were too accusatory. And in full disclosure, I think I was supposed to try to rewrite them to be less accusatory, but I didn't know how to do that. Like, the question's very simple. How much did your Orion Project charity raise, and what did you do with the funds? If that's accusatory, I'm sorry, but that's a very honest, direct question that I could see any real investigative journalist asking him. But somehow that kind of questioning, some people perceive that to be too accusatory. I don't think it's accusatory. I think it's asking for answers. And that is the job of an investigative journalist, is to investigate things and then ask questions. So, and also, we're going to get into some things with this interview. First of all, I did communicate with Kurt from Theories of Everything, and I asked him what his opinion on the physics was. Because during this interview, and by the way, we're going to only sample a very small portion of this interview. We're not going to go through the whole thing. I asked Kurt for a comment about his physics. What he, in my opinion, and again, I'm not a physicist, right? Kurt asked him some very direct questions about the physics of what he's talking about. And in my opinion, Dr. Steven Greer gave a bunch of word salad nonsense, quantum vacuum point and all this. This is not science, what he said. It's not science. And this guy ran a free energy charity where he was going to create a free energy device and save the world and the environment and the whole planet, but he doesn't know how the devices work. But send him money so he can make one, right? It absolutely shocking to me that this guy thought that he could go on to a show that's a physics show and say what he said when asked a direct question about how this works. So I wanted to know what Kurt actually thought, because he didn't really say during the interview what did he think of Dr. Steven Greer's alleged physics explanations. And Kurt said, quote, "My only comment is that I need to look more into what he said. As it stands, I didn't understand it. I dislike suggesting that it's false because it could always be the case that I am just framing something incorrectly, or he's misusing a term unintentionally, or that he simply knows some large scale view and not the meticulous details. Thus, there's a confusion at both ends for both of us. So my stance is fairly neutral. I need to investigate further. That was disappointing to me. But and again, what we get from Kurt from Theories of Everything, and I'm not knocking him, please don't take this as a knock, is that Kurt is very, very, he's fair to a fault, I would say. I think he's too fair, but I do appreciate that he messaged me back and let me know what he thought. I hope that once he has time to digest or investigate further, he'll let me know what he really thinks. At this point, he's neutral on what Greer said. I reached out to some other science nerd friends who said, word salad nonsense. Take from that what you will. But also, all right, we're going to get into this. We're going to get into this actual interview. And we're going to cite fair use again, and this is a transformative work. We're educating the public about Dr. Steven Greer and his recent appearance on the very popular Theories of Everything podcast. Okay, 1 second. Here we go. Oh, let me do that again. Always forget this share system audio button. Yeah. 1 second, friends. There we go. Now we got it. All right. And like I said, the important part of this whole thing, everybody keeps asking me, well, what do you think of this interview? I think it is a rerun. I've been here before where Dr. Steven Greer used most of these exact talking points about free energy and pitched some send me money thing. But we'll get into it. Let's give it a go.
Dr. Steven Greer is one of the world's authorities on the subject of UFOs and extraterrestrial intelligence. For decades, Greer has provided briefings to senior government officials across the globe.
Well, that's a problem. That's a real problem. Did you hear what Kurt just said? He said that for decades, Dr. Steven Greer has provided briefings for world leaders across the globe. That's a very big problem because these are the talking points or the bio points that Dr. Steven Greer gives to people who he does interviews with. And most people, including Kurt, don't fact check those talking points or bio that Steven Greer gives them. And again, just to be clear, I'm not blaming Kurt for saying that Dr. Steven Greer briefed all these world leaders. That was given to him by Dr. Steven Greer. But there's a real problem with Kurt or anyone else repeating those talking points. Dr. Steven, and look, we're 10 seconds in and there's already a factual inaccuracy, or I would say outright lie in this 10 seconds in before Steven Greer even gets here. There's already lies in this thing. It's ridiculous. So Dr. Steven Greer has claimed being the key word, that he briefed all of these world leaders. But there's a huge problem with that, and that is that every time he says he briefed a world leader and then they hear about it, they say that never happened. And the most famous case of that is the Woolsey case. At one point, Dr. Steven Greer claimed that he briefed former CIA director James Woolsey on aliens and UFOs. But what actually happened is that Dr. Steven Greer was at a dinner and he was seated near him. And when James Woolsey heard that Dr. Steven Greer was claiming he gave him a top secret briefing about aliens and UFOs, he sent him a letter and said, none of that shit happened. Let's get into that. All right. So, and this is some time ago. This is how long Steven Greer has been lying to people. You might recall that most recently, in a recent documentary, Dr. Steven Greer claimed that he briefed President Trump and Vice President Pence about aliens. Well, we reached out to their media representatives. Nobody ever heard of Dr. Steven Greer. Isn't that funny? Did he lie about briefing the president and the vice president about aliens? I would say he did. And he has lied about multiple people, including James Woolsey here. So Steven Greer runs around UFO conferences around 1998, and I think it was 97, 98, and 99. And he's telling everybody that he gave former CIA director James Woolsey a briefing about aliens and UFOs. Woolsey hears about this along with the people that were sitting at the same table as Greer at some social event, and he sends Greer this letter. Dear Dr. Greer, it has just come to the attention of the four of us that you have, without giving any of us the opportunity to comment, published a distorted account of a dinner party of some 6 years ago, at which the four of us, you and your wife, were seated together. In the introduction to your book, Extraterrestrial Contact, published earlier this year, you portray this dinner party conversation during which the four of us listened to your views and politely asked questions as a, quote, briefing, unquote, briefing, quote, briefing, okay, with a, quote, cover story. You further assert, oh yeah, so in his book, Dr. Steven Greer claimed that the dinner party was just a cover story so that he could brief the CIA director about aliens and UFOs. No, it never happened, friends. Great. You further assert that Mr. and Mrs. Woolsey reported a UFO sighting to you and agreed with your views. You include specific alleged quotations from them. So Dr. Steven Greer quoted these people about alien stories, and what they said was, none of this is accurate. You have portrayed politeness as acquiescence and questions as affirmations. Your conduct in this matter contravenes both accuracy and simple manners. So this right here shows you that Dr. Steven Greer just lies through his teeth and he invents shit. Great. He sat at a dinner party with a former CIA director. It doesn't mean that he briefed the former CIA director about aliens. James Woolsey didn't ask him for a briefing about aliens, and he didn't agree that what he got from Greer was even a briefing. But that didn't stop Dr. Steven Greer from putting, I've briefed all these important people in books, documentaries, so, by the way, I brought this point up to Kurt from Theories of Everything, and Kurt told me that he is editing out that introduction where he said that Greer has briefed those people, important government leaders. Based on all available evidence, his claims, Dr. Steven Greer's claims of having briefed important people. Now, remember, here's the proof right here of what happens when you get to the people that Dr. Steven Greer keeps claiming that he's briefing about aliens. And most recently, again, he claimed that he briefed President Trump and Vice President Pence about aliens. Does he have any proof that he briefed them? Did they ask for a briefing? No, they didn't. But here is the wiggle. Here's how Dr. Steven Greer and his supporters get out of it. When pressed, Dr. Steven Greer's supporters, people like Third Phase of Moon, and by the way, the only people who will defend Dr. Steven Greer in his ridiculous claims of having briefed a sitting president and vice president when there's no evidence or proof that he did or that they asked for it. The only people that will defend that are people that have a financial motive, like Third Phase of Fake, who make documentaries full of lies of Dr. Steven Greer. That was my favorite. Third Phase of Fake, by the way, still owe me $13 for their last documentary, which was shit. It was the shittiest documentary I've ever paid money for. and I bought a lot of documentaries. I like to support filmmakers, but in that documentary, Dr. Steven Greer claimed that an entire company in Michigan, an engineering company, got murdered. An entire company in the state of Michigan got murdered because they were developing a free energy project. Friends, anybody can check that. That never happened. No whole company got murdered. And Third Phase of Moon tried to defend that, saying that I'm acting like somebody walked in with a gun and shot the whole company. No, then find me the company. You put it in your documentary, you couple of dummies. No, Dr. Steven Greer lies through his teeth constantly, and you have to fact check him. You can't make a documentary where he's telling people an entire engineering company got murdered and don't fact check that thing. You can check public records, see if a whole company got murdered. Cousins Brothers, they didn't do that. Didn't do it. So their documentary has provable lies in it. I thought documentaries were supposed to be, true stories and tell you the truth about a subject. Apparently not when Third Phase of Fake are making it, but what can you expect from those clowns? Oh, and by the way, Idiot Rich from GoofOn is now, somebody sent me something. He is fat shaming Lou Jimenez on his show tonight. And I don't know if he doesn't know this, but you can't fat shame people on YouTube, you dummy. And why would you do that anyway? Who cares if somebody was overweight, right? You don't know what their medical situation is. Maybe they got thyroid problem, whatever. Who cares? Why do you gotta make fun of somebody's weight, right? Ridiculous. All right, so let's get back to this. I have a whole bunch of editing to do tonight, friends. So I'm not sure. We're gonna just start this and see. I don't have timestamps, so let's get back into it.
He's also written 5 books and produced 4 feature-length documentaries, each listed in the description with a link. He's currently working on a documentary about new energy titled The Lost Century and How to Regain It, to be released in spring 2023. I'm joined today generously by Dan Zetterstrom of That UFO Podcast. Now, the link to that podcast will be in the description, and I recommend you subscribe. At around the 20-minute and the 40-minute mark, you'll hear an ad for Trade Coffee and Hyundai, respectively, as they both sponsor this video. Thank you and enjoy. If you can see this, type in Spirited Away. Spirited Away.
You like your anime references.
Sorry, are you there?
Yeah, that's all right. So
All
everything
right.
okay?
I don't know. Somehow it went over to something called safe driving mode. Which
Okay, well-
must mean that it gets rid of the video because they don't want you looking at the video while you're driving.
Okay, we'll be unsafe at the desk. Oh yeah, I want to give you some briefings. So my name's Kurt, and this is a Theories of Everything podcast. It's like a physics term, and I'm interested in the phenomenon, so I interview people on the phenomenon. Okay. So welcome, Dr. Greer. I'll give you a great introduction in the edited version, so don't worry. Go through your accolades and so on. Welcome, Greer. Sorry, it's Dr. Greer, and there are thousands of people watching right now.
Great. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm here in Washington.
And isn't it funny, friends, that he did go through his accolades in the introduction, but now he has to edit out some of his accolades, which are fake. Yeah. Oh, it's just great. All right, well, let's get
Washington.
Okay, so we'll start off slow, and then we'll get into the meat of it. And just so you know, may take this out, but just so you know, if I feel as if the question is going on, the answer is going on for a bit too long, I mean no disrespect, I may just interject and say, okay, so going back to the original question and so on, because you have so much knowledge and experience, and you're voluble and valuable at the same times.
Somebody must have warned him that Greer can rant for 30 minutes off of one question.
Does that sound fair? Is that all right?
Sure. No, that's fine.
Okay, great. Okay, so this question comes from Santiago, who wants to know what's your workout routine and what type of music do you listen to?
Oh, God. Who
I like
cares?
alternative rock, mostly alternative. And my workout routine is about 8 hours a week. I do a lot of mountain biking and hiking. In the gym, I focus on non-cardio weights. So, I have a day that I do chest, and a day I do back, a day I do legs, a day I do arms.
Each day?
And then, no,
Hey, we're gonna skip
we
that.
anticipate it'll be idea to communicate with you guys.
All right. What
Sorry,
is it that you're
friends.
working on in the next few months, 8, 9 months?
Well, on October 25th, of course, we're doing a big event in Santa Monica, and it's a webinar you can join. But it's the backbone of a new documentary feature film. We anticipate it'll be more significant than Unacknowledged. It has had 760 million people see it. This next one is going to be called The Lost Century. So we're crowdfunding it also. I mean, in other words, all our activities are the people funding it. We don't have a corporate or that type of sponsor, because we want to be able.
Yeah, isn't it great that he does the pitch right in the beginning? We are only 5 minutes into the interview, and he's already pitching for money. 5 minutes in. That's why he's Dr. Steven Greer. He didn't even wait 5 minutes into the interview before he started with the I need money pitch.
To tell the truth and the whole truth, and not have it censored by somebody who controls the content. So the lostcenturyfilm.com is the site if you want to help us with that, or you can join us on October 25th. The event itself is sold out in person in Santa Monica. But what we're doing with that film is to create a movement like the disclosure movement, but focus on the technologies that have been sequestered away that would get us off oil and gas and coal, and for that matter, fake electric cars like Teslas and solar panels and what have you.
Yeah. So exact same money grub from 2008. He just brought it back out. Do you know why? Because he was never prosecuted for the first time he did this, I guess. It's incredible. I could not believe that he's back to free energy. He needs $500,000 again for free energy.
That create a huge amount of pollution, and you're plugging your car into the coal-fired power grid, right? Or gas-fired power grid, say, 88% not renewable energy from your electricity grid. So there are technologies, some are called zero point or quantum vacuum flux systems, that are very well established, existed, but have been vanished.
Factually inaccurate statement. A completely factually inaccurate statement. There is zero proof that any real so-called free energy or over unity device ever existed that could be measured, tested, and proven to actually do what he's describing here. It's like that old saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And it is. Free energy is too good to be true. Would I love for somebody to invent a device like that so I won't have to work so much? Sure. But he's done this whole pitch before with the Orion project in 2008, and he collected all kinds of money and did nothing. And here he is again on a podcast with 150,000 subscribers, with thousands of people watching this interview. And 5 minutes in, he's doing the hard sell, send me money for free energy.
By corrupt interests, both corporate and government. So what we want to do with the lost century is show there's a lost century, 100 years of these technologies that have been sequestered, and the earth is in serious trouble, and we're not going to fix it with just drilling more oil or putting solar panels around, because the solar panels don't have enough energy density, and that both sides are right and wrong about some of the policies they're putting forward.
And did you hear what he just said? This tells you right now that he has no idea what he's talking about. He said solar panels don't have enough energy density. That's a nonsensical statement. Of course they do. Of course they do. But solar panels take a great deal of real estate. But I believe that solar panels are a viable solution to the world's energy problems. The problem is that different countries are going to have to work together to make that work. In other words, what about desert countries and all of that real estate out in the desert that's getting huge amounts of sun all day, every day, and no rain, what if the world could work together and say, you have all this desert, could we put, hundreds of miles of solar panels in that barren wasteland of a desert that's doing no good for anyone anyway, and in exchange we will trade back to you some other commodities, food, grain, fuel, I don't know, well, different things. But the world won't work together like that. So that's why solar panels don't work for a worldwide solution, because nobody has gotten the world leaders to get together and agree to it. That's my opinion. I have studied these things extensively, and some of you know that my cabin is partially solar powered. Well, it could be completely solar powered. At my cabin, we have on-grid power, but it's in the middle of nowhere, so there's frequent power failures. So I have a pretty beefy solar system that is more than sufficient to power the cabin completely. That's another solution, to have everyone worry about their own power. But he doesn't talk about that because he has no knowledge of solar power systems. And I don't know for a fact, but I doubt he's ever built one. And I built many.
What they're really missing is this third element. The element being that these really advanced technologies, some of which are explain how, for example, these so-called UFOs don't have a payload of fuel or a nuclear reactor. Where
So
they
this is
getting
tied to the
energy?
phenomenon?
100%. Yeah, I always, when I'm up here in DC and if I'm having a meeting with some people critically and, folks who supposedly manage the intelligence community here in Washington.
Did you hear that? He just said that he's in Washington, D.C., and he's having meetings with people who run the intelligence community. Can we have their names so that we can ask them if they're actually having meetings with you? Or is this just a bullshitter telling bullshit stories? I know what I believe.
I'll point to that Tic Tac that everyone made such much noise about. And I said, that's an alternative energy and propulsion device. Just think of it that way. Don't make this any more esoteric. And in that case, it almost certainly was from the Lockheed Skunk Works. In other words, it was not, quote unquote, an EBIN on board or extraterrestrial.
Yeah. So now he says that the Tic Tac UFO was a free energy device and propulsion system. Does he have any proof of that he could show us? Or again, is this just a bullshitter telling bullshit stories? And I got to say, I'm not disappointed in That UFO podcast dummy, because this is what they do. They invite people like Steven Greer on their podcast, on their show, and they just let them bullshit. They don't. Why did neither Kurt or this other guy stop him and say, do you have evidence of this last statement? What are you basing that on? And then he goes on to say it's from Lockheed Martin. Does he have, I'm going to go get a statement from Lockheed Martin and ask them if they made the Tic Tac. What do you think they're going to say? And, I get it. The Men in Black, it's a cover up. Of course, they're not going to tell you the truth. He's the one making all these fantastical claims. He just said that the Tic Tac UFO is a free energy device and propulsion system. And isn't it great how all these UFO grifters all say that? Bob Lazar, it's free energy. It's over Unity. It's an anti-gravity reactor. David Wilcock, free energy going in his hover car. Billy Carson, he's developing free energy technology, but they all need money. They all need investments, right? God, this is garbage.
So I think this gets into the whole discussion of where have our tax dollars gone? What do we have in classified projects? What part of that can be disclosed so that we could move off of oil and gas and coal and really create a new civilization based on technologies that Nikola Tesla, the real Tesla, and others began to discover back in the late 1800s and early 1900s.
Again, more inaccurate statements. This man is not very well educated. You can go to a Tesla museum in Europe. There's no proof that Nikola Tesla, genius that he was, I absolutely am a Tesla fan. I built a Tesla coil in my younger years, almost electrocuted myself, got in trouble with my parents. Long story. Tesla was a verifiable genius. But one thing you'll notice about everybody who's trying to sell you something to do with free energy, you'll notice a few things. First, they all have the same talking points. The gas companies, the oil companies, the electric companies, they're all suppressing this technology. But they never provide proof of that conspiracy claim. Never. And the other thing you'll notice is that they all talk about Nikola Tesla had this technology back in the 20s. He invented it and they suppressed it. No, I mean, he didn't have free energy technology. He had a bunch of weird technologies to transmit power without wires for sure, but he did not have free energy technology that anybody can point to and prove. But that doesn't stop them from letting themselves lie through their teeth. It's just a lie to say that Tesla had free energy technology and it was suppressed. Show us the technology then. If it was suppressed. That's why we can't prove that Tesla or anybody else ever invented a free energy device. You always got to throw Tesla in there, right?
So we have 100 years where we've lost social and I think spiritual evolution with it. And we've trapped the planet environmentally on a downward spiral to nearly an extinction level event that's coming up quickly.
I know this is petty, but I'm going to mention it. Dr. Steven Greer is always talking like he's going to save the environment. He did this in 2008. He claimed that, he was going to invent free energy devices if everybody just gave him enough money to build a lab and hire scientists and we could save the environment. Has anybody seen the colossal mansion that he lives in? What is his carbon footprint like? And he's going to be the guy that's why this guy is ridiculous, because he doesn't even stop to think while he's running around telling everybody he's going to save the world with his free energy designs that don't exist, that he lives in a humongous mansion and his carbon footprint is awful, right? Great.
And the other problem is that half the world's population is in unbelievable poverty. In the West, we're so narcissistic. We think, oh, well, we have hundreds of years of oil and gas here in, North America or wherever, or the Middle East, which is probably true. But the biosphere can't withstand hundreds of years more. And that doesn't count. About half the world's population doesn't have electricity or a way of life like we do. 3 billion people don't have any way to cook their meals. They're scrounging and tearing down old growth rainforests or desert plants to cook and make charcoal. That's 3 billion. The Economist just came out with that number a few months ago.
Again, another factually inaccurate statement. They have a way. It's called wood and charcoal, and there's nothing wrong with cooking with wood, but I'm biased on that.
So if we're really going to live as a planet that can be at all just, which means it can be peaceful, and get to what some people call level 1 civilization, we're going to have to really quickly bring these sciences and technologies out. So that's the next big thrust. Of course, it's in the core message of the Disclosure Project, but this entire documentary film will be focused on that. And then we're going to also describe how these technologies have vanished and what we need to change to get them out to the public.
And here again, does this sound familiar? This is the same talking points and the same pitch that he was giving back in 2008 when he did a money grab and collected all kinds of money for creating a free energy device. Now it's a documentary. So actually it's a downgrade, because before he was going to give us free energy. Now he's just going to give us a documentary about free energy for $500,000.
Coffee helps me work. It helps.
Sorry. Coffee ad. Let's see.
But I have this policy of, I'm sorry, if you can't come public with it, like show everyone, then don't show it to me, because I don't want to have any information that I can't talk about. So that's just my own policy. I don't like to have to sign an NDA or be in possession of anything that I can't talk about. And what they tell me is, Kurt, as soon as I go forward with this, people have died from this. The government has silenced people, and I'm worried for my health, my safety, or I've been contacted by the government officials who are trying to silence me. Mm-hmm. So in other words, those are some fears that people have. Now I'm curious, do you have those fears, and how warranted are they?
They're very warranted, and we can prove that this has happened. I mean, I've been personally involved in teams that have had the result of a wet works group kill its principal people. Wet works is CIA term for wet from blood being killed. And, you know, I've had myself on the watch group list more than once, which is the kill list. But I think that what
Dr. Steven Greer is on a CIA kill list or a government kill list. What is his evidence of this? Again, this is just a bullshitter bullshitting. It's like a guy at a bar that tells stories. It's so ridiculous.
But how do you know that? Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Thoughts occurred to me. So how was it disclosed to you that?
Well, you remember, starting in '93, I've briefed people like the director of the CIA, and I have a network.
Did you hear that? He just said he briefed people like the director of the CIA. Do I got to bring that letter up again where that CIA director said he was full of shit? This guy is a bullshitter.
Work of people in clandestine services and elsewhere who are friendly to what we're doing. They don't want to stick their necks out too far because they don't end up like Bill Colby, the CIA director who was helping us back in the 90s bring one of these technologies out. And they found him floating down here south of DC in the river.
Now, this is another problem. And here we can fact check him. He just said that former CIA director Bill Colby was murdered because he tried to help Dr. Steven Greer bring out a free energy device. Well, isn't it convenient that he's saying he's making fantastical claims about a dead man? But one may think maybe you could get to his family members, take this clip to the family members of that so-called murdered man and see what they think. And if they have any knowledge. Again, fantastical claims that can't be proven. They might be able to be proven false, though. And I'm going to look into this one, friends.
He was wet work. His best friend was a colonel who was on our team and confirmed that was a kill, but made to look like an accident. So
great. So Dr. Steven Greer was on a team with this CIA person and a colonel. So you can give us the name and address and contact information for the colonel that verified to you that he was murdered by the government, Dr. Steven Greer. Do you see what I mean? And listen, I can't watch too much of this because I don't want to dislike Kurt from Theories of Everything. I like him. But when I watch this and the fact that nobody stops him and says, do you have proof of that? That's a fantastical statement. What evidence do you have to support your statement or something? They just let him bullshit. And I hate that they let him bullshit like this. This interview could have went a totally different way.
So these guys are not without foundation. What they're huge mistake, and this is a big part of this film, and you're going to hear about this if you join our podcast on October 25th.
That's a paid podcast, by the way. You can't just listen. You gotta. I think it's one of those you got to pay. Get behind the paywall to hear this more bullshit. And could you imagine what kind of bullshit he puts behind the paywall that he thinks nobody will? It must be supporters, or I heard it gets wild behind the paywall. We're going to get behind his paywall, see what happens.
There's a strategy to avoid that, but everyone keeps making the same mistakes. And as Einstein said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. So what?
Yeah, so I guess it would be insanity to give Dr. Steven Greer more money and expect that he'll do something good with the money this time, because he's already been given a shit ton, apparently, of money for free energy to charity, and he didn't produce anything. Now he wants us to give him more money so he can make a free energy documentary. Great.
What we've done is analyze 120 years or so of these sort of technologies, how they've come and then how they vanished. What are the mistakes that are consistently made? And you named it. You hit the nail on the head. They're trying to keep it secret. Now, what I tell people is that if you have something like that, contact me yesterday, immediately.
He's still looking for somebody that has a device. He said that he has proof that the devices existed and were suppressed. Why does he need somebody new? This circular logic of his, he thinks it's not obvious that he's bullshitting.
But you have to be prepared to open source it. Now, what does open source mean? It's like GitHub, the software company. It means that you release all of it without any holdback to the public, but massively. So what I would do is have a massive press conference around it, but it would have been released, the entire plans, how it operates, nothing held back. Forget patenting this stuff. It's going to get seized to a national security order, NSO.
Yeah, and this is another thing. Again, this is all the stuff that he said in 2008 when he did that money grab, that he was going to do all those things. He never did any of those things.
And so what you have to do is say, okay, the whole system is set up to intercept these. One of the biggest ones are financial and legal traps that are out there, because people will take in, quote, investors. The other is that you'll be offered a lot of money, be black shelved. I mean, if it's enough information and knowledge, they'll try to buy it off and put it on a shelf where nobody sees it. We know specific cases where that's happened.
Great. Can I have their names and phone numbers so I can interview them? He says these things. Nobody stops him. You know, the fact that he's able to just straight bullshit these two is very disappointing to me. Like, I just watch this and I go, every few minutes that he should have been stopped and asked for evidence here, but he wasn't. So he just keeps going and going. And that's what most of this is like, and why I can't sit through the whole thing.
Well, that person is rich, the inventor and his team, but the world's dying, right?
Right.
So,
right.
now there is another way to do this, but it's very against what most venture capital and financial and legal and business people would say. And that is, you take all the details of that invention and you release it open source and without any holdbacks, no patent and no
for the good of humanity.
Yes, but it would also be for the good of the person. I'll get to this in a minute. This is very counterintuitive, and this is where
no proof.
You can have $100 million in an operational device, but if you don't strategically understand what you're up against $800 trillion, $900 trillion cartels of energy, utilities, oil, gas, coal, all of this, the petrodollar system. You're not going to take that on, even if someone gives you $1 billion, if you don't have the right strategy. So what I explain to people is that what I discovered from working with a number of these groups, beginning with Bruce De Palma in 1991, and subsequently the Tuari device and many others, and the Stan Meyer family that had the car running on water. Those were real systems, but they all made the same mistake. They kept the technology secret in a small group of people. So I recommend you have to do something called detargeting. How do you detarget yourself? Well, you do what I've done. You get it out there, you put it out there. And that's what I do with the Disclosure Project. You don't sit on this sort of thing because if nobody knows, you're the tree that fell in the woods and nobody ever heard, right? So if you don't want to be the tree that falls in the woods, which means another dead body or confiscated technology.
Yeah, and Greer has previously claimed that the government murdered several of his team members. And again, there's no evidence or proof of that. He just says things. It's amazing.
You push it out. Now, here's one of the problems. If you're in a lab at Lawrence Berkeley Labs, like a man I know who discovered one of these, a physicist, and nobody knows who you are, you don't have the means to get 1 billion, 2 billion people aware of it. What my group has developed are groups of influencers and celebrities and others that we would be able to get that out to people in, at least 1 billion to 2 billion people in a couple of weeks, in a fortnight. So what that means is that you squeeze the toothpaste out of the tube so fast and so hard, these fascists can't put it back in. I call them the petro-fascists.
Sure. How do you get it out to, let's say, 1 billion people? How do you do that? What is that, like a newsletter or a video?
Yeah, this is the exact talking points that we just heard, friends, from 2008. And we're gonna skip around here. So we're gonna go to a separate one that I do have queued, where Kurt asks him for some evidence finally. But here's the disappointing part. This guy bullshitted This guy completely bullshitted for 39 minutes before anybody stopped him and asked him for any evidence. And that's rather disappointing. It's rather disappointing that they would just let him sit there and bullshit for 39 minutes before somebody stopped him. 39 minutes of bullshit before you said, "Excuse me, do you have any evidence of this?" You know, it's a problem. And like I said, I'm having a real hard time here. 1 second. Let me cue this, friends. Oh, 1 second. I got it. Okay. All right. Sorry, friends. A little unprepared tonight. Let's let me share this. Again, we're citing fair use. This is transformative work. But I believe that Kurt is a supporter of free speech and fair use concepts. But still, we're going to be critiquing the video we're sharing and talking about what is being discussed.
They usually back off the edge of the cliff when they realize.
Are we talking Senator Gillibrand and people like Marco Rubio, the people that are really pushing this?
It's just
like
after this section here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but there's a growing number. The problem is they're not allowed to know or be read in through channels what's actually going on. I mean, they're still asking questions like, geez, are these from China, or are these, what are they? So
Let me interject if you don't mind. Is that all right?
yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah. So I know what people are thinking, because people are constantly thinking, so where's the evidence for so-and-so? Because there's many, many claims here. And obviously you can't give evidence for each one because it would just be a 3-day event. I wouldn't mind a 3-day event. That's actually pretty cool. I have a 3-day podcast, but either way. So where is the evidence for, I don't have a specific claim in mind. So when certain ones come up, I may interject and be like, okay, what evidence is there for this that's accessible to other people? Because of course we can say so-and-so told me. And I'm sure you wouldn't accept that as evidence. And there is such a thing as disinformation.
Well, it's hidden it's in plain sight. Of course, nobody reads. I mean, the disclosure book is 500 and some pages of whistleblower top secret transcripts and government documents. And it's there. Anyone who wants to get it can get it. Just go get it.
Would people be able to find you mentioned that you do have a kind of a presidential briefing pack. Are people able to view that, for example?
Not everything in there. It's something that I would want to put out because it has names and people. Here's something that you have to understand. Out of the 1,100 or so guys who come to me, and some women who work in these areas, only less than 10% of them have been willing to be exposed publicly. In other words,
yeah, so great. He's claiming that he has 1,100 inside government sources, and nobody stopped him. Come on, 1,100 insider government? Yeah, right. Sure he does.
There's a man I'm working with right now who is at the Nellis Range on a retrieval team to retrieve both man-made UFOs that became disabled and extraterrestrial ones. But he has had so many threats, he does not want to be known in the public. But I will give his information to these key Black Project investigators here in Washington. And he's happy with that.
So you could release a document, but redact those names?
Yes. So if you look at the last, like in April, I did a 3-day workshop, and we had a whole hour and a half where I presented his evidence and his case, and the details. So there was nothing withheld except the man's name.
Isn't it? Yeah, great. He tells a fantastical story, but it's an anonymous source that nobody else can check and say, did you tell this Steven Greer all this bullshit or not? Anonymous sources, and people are paying thousands of dollars to attend this event, but he doesn't have a financial motive to lie to people or make shit up. Bull.
Now that's because one of the things, if you want people to come to you with very sensitive information that for which they've been threatened with being killed, If they were to be known publicly talking about it, then you better keep their identities confidential, which I do.
Yeah.
I mean, and any doctor is trained to do that. People come to doctors and tell.
Oh, this is great. He's about to essentially claim that other doctors are violating federal HIPAA laws and giving him information. Listen to this shit. This is some bullshit.
I have a friend who's a medical doctor up in Dayton, Ohio at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and he's had many people who work there on the ET materiel and other technologies, spin-off technologies. But, you know, he would never speak of those people's names publicly because it was done within the sanctity of the doctor-patient relationship. And he would not violate that, although he will give me that information.
That is complete and utter garbage. No doctor in the United States would discuss their patients with another doctor or give details that they learned during their time as a doctor for someone to this clown. That would be a violation of HIPAA laws and would get them removed as a doctor. They could no longer practice medicine. Now, given that many doctors make upwards of, you know, between $250,000 to $1 million a year, many doctors or surgeons do, what doctor is risking their $250,000+ a year job as a doctor, or whatever they make, $100,000? Who cares? Who's going to risk their entire career and livelihood to share confidential information about their patients that they gleaned while those people were their patients? That's against the law. And this shows you what a bullshitter this man is. He is full of it. No doctor would do that. And by the way, somebody could report him, call the Wright-Patterson base, and find out which doctor, right, is telling him confidential patient information. And they could be fired. This is ridiculous. That person probably doesn't exist. He's making this up too.
Only because I'm a fellow physician and he knows I'm going to convey it to people who can actually do something about it.
Okay, so he's claiming a doctor violates HIPAA laws and gives him information, and then he violates HIPAA laws too and gives that information to government people. Great.
And you know, who are now authorized by law, mandated by law, by the way, to do this. Now, you know, you have to make a distinction between what I'm talking about right now and the dog and pony show at the Pentagon office and the congressional office and what you see in Politico and the New York Times. None of that's relevant to what I'm discussing. This is happening with people who actually have the ability to do something. Most of these things, it's like Project Blue Book, was sort of a PR front store operation to satisfy members of Congress and the public. The real actions were going on elsewhere.
Tell us more, Dr.
This is unfortunate. I mean, my own feeling is that all of it ought to be very transparent and happening very quickly. But, you know, the United States government doesn't operate that way, nor does any other government. But I do think that, you know, there's great progress right now being made. I mean, more in the 32 years I've been doing this, it's the biggest breakthroughs that I have seen in 32 years. And so there's a lot of potential. Let's just say there's a lot of potential.
Have you ever thought about your car personality?
I'm not sure I like Kurt's show being so filled with all this. One second. Kurt's doing pretty good. He's got Hyundai ads. Just wait a moment while I cue this, please, friends. One moment, friends. Okay, here we go. Okay, now we can pull it back up. And yes, I'm aware that Dr. Steven Greer is a medical doctor. However, it would be against the law for another medical doctor to give him confidential patient information to give out to people. That's what I'm saying. That's garbage. No doctor would do that, knowingly do it, because they would lose their medical license. And doctors make a lot of money. They're not risking their medical license to give Dr. Steven Greer material to sell to stupid people. You know?
What I like especially about the first part of this when you came on about the open sourceness.
Yes.
I'm not an academic, but I'm trained as an academic, so I like open source. And then the question about the briefing, so why won't you release it? Well, there's names. Okay, that's cool. And then you have released it to some of the people who are at some live event. Now, is there a reason that it's exclusive to people at a live event? Because I'm sure then...
Oh, no, it's up on our YouTube channel. Now, remember, our YouTube channel has like 500 videos, some of which are 2 to 4 hours long. And it's Dr. Steven Greer. It's whatever it is.
Like in PDF form. I mean, like PowerPoint presentation. Or however it is that you deliver.
Oh, yes. Well, those are going to be that's what we're creating. So this huge archive that we're collecting that we're putting together for the U.S. government, White House, National Security Council, Congress.
Nobody from the government asked him for this. He's just going to collect it and say he's giving it to them. It's such, oh my God, I can't take much more of this.
That we're going to have a version of it when we get it done, hopefully in the next 10 months. That would be accessible by the public. But, again, you have to understand, we're not a rich podcast like you. We're all volunteers. And we don't have...
Yeah, and that's really a bad dig to say that, well, maybe, he's doing pretty good. But Dr. Steven Greer probably has more subscribers than Kurt. I haven't checked, but I think that he might.
Have an office or staff. Now, I am hiring away from an aerospace company.
I'm not a rich podcast, just so you know.
Oh, I thought
same.
Oh, well, when I was on Joe Rogan, those kind of people.
I was never offered $2 billion.
Oh, you weren't given $100 million by Spotify, and
No.
If you would take my interview out of the lineup, that's what Joe Rogan did. He took my interview.
Did you hear that? Dr. Steven Greer is claiming that Joe Rogan took his interview out of the Spotify lineup, and he was given $100 million to do that. This is the same man who says that the government offered him $2 billion to stop talking about aliens. What? God, this guy is like pathological. He lies so much.
You out of the lineup so he could get the $100 million from Spotify. Oh, yeah. How do you think deals like that are made? There's a quid pro quo. Let's take out anything that's really inflammatory. Anyway.
Oh, and by the way, how do I say this without? Let me think for a moment, friends, because I don't want to misspeak. This is very okay. I'll just say it this way. There is a rumor that Joe Rogan took down that podcast where he interviewed Dr. Steven Greer because his mind was blown by the amount and frequency of BS and total and complete lack of any factual information that Dr. Steven Greer just BS'd for 2 hours straight. And Joe Rogan did not want his name attached to this clown. So he took the podcast down. And I know which version of the story I believe. So you can believe that Joe Rogan said, this guy's a bullshitter. I shouldn't have interviewed him. I'm taking that interview down. Or you can believe Dr. Steven Greer, who just said that Joe Rogan took his interview down and was given $100 million to do it.
You see how cynical I am about the media, big media. So at any rate.
Well, hey, firstly, I commend you. I'm happy that you're on, and I appreciate that you're willing to come in here and answer some questions that, again, like it sounds answering, but just a fatuous person. So when I say, what's evidence for so-and-so, I mean no disrespect. It's just my academic
we have all the evidence you want. But again, we put these together in so many formats where there's video, books, but most people, they can only stand reading the headlines. So if people want to drill down in it, go drill down on them. I have 5 books out. There are, like I said, 1,000 hours or more of really densely packed information and presentations with those PowerPoints on the YouTube channel.
Great. I appreciate that you're not offended by it. I appreciate
no, not
that,
at all. I mean,
because there'll be more questions like that coming.
There'll be anyone like that should I mean,
Yeah,
but
Greer
what I
has
say
more
is,
subscribers than
go
Kurt.
do it. I can't spoon feed it to you if you're not willing to read. Of course, it's politically incorrect to read or do math, as you know.
Okay, so about the documentary that's coming up, The Lost Century and How to Regain It, you said there's a plan for there to be a push of something open source with regard to energy. How's that coming? Does that come along with the website? Like, how does that work? Does that come a week before, a week after?
Let me be clear. We don't have we don't have an inventor or technology group that's willing to do that, because they're like, the movie Lord of the Rings, my precious Gollum with his.
Yeah, he told us in 2008 that he was going to develop a free energy device. Here we are, many, many years later, no free energy, but he wants another $500,000.
Ring. Ironically, some of them are toroidal rings. Those folks do not want to lose control of it and ownership of it by open sourcing it.
All right, I can't take any more of this. I'm sorry, friends. I'm checking out. Here's what we're going to do, though. We're going to check out his website with the new money grab, because that in and of itself is funny. It's funny the way that he's asking for this. And in closing, about the actual interview, I was very disappointed. Everybody was very disappointed in that interview. And I reached out to Dr. Steven Greer for comment, and I sent him a message, an email, and I said, Dr. Steven Greer, how do you feel about how incredibly disappointed everyone is or was in your recent interview on Theories of Everything? And here's what he sent me back, friends.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. And thanks, Spooky, for grabbing that for me. So we're going to, again, cite fair use, but this is a public website. We're going to share Dr. Steven Greer's latest film website. And here's where I'm a little bit encouraged. I'm discouraged about this. Look at this. 422 people gave him money so far for this bull. And he's up to 6%, to $30,000 he's raised of a $500,000 goal. For $5 to $24.99, you get email updates from Dr. Steven Greer. For $25 to $44.99, you get digital download of the book Disclosure, plus email updates from the previous level. Great. $45 to $59, you get professional digital download of the film poster. Download only. So you get a poster, but just you get a JPG. You get a PNG. You get an image file. You got to pay to print it yourself, I guess. You couldn't spring for a poster for $60. Hidden Truth, Forbidden Knowledge, MP3 meditation. Download and everything from the previous levels. For $60 to $80, you get Cosmic Consciousness, an advanced course in mantra meditation. And here's the thing. Why would you pay this kind of money, $60 to $80, and get a mantra meditation? Go on YouTube search bar and put mantra meditation in. You'll find 100 free mantra meditations or courses in mantra meditations. $80 to $99, digital download of the Unacknowledged book, plus everything from previous levels. You don't even get a copy of the film yet, and we're up to $99. $100 to $249, you get digital download of the book Extraterrestrial Contact, the Evidence and Implications, everything from the previous levels. Now we get up to the big money. These are the big supporters. $250 to $599, 1 year galactic membership on the membership platform CE5 Ambassador Program details. Digital download of the book Hidden Proof, Forbidden Knowledge, plus everything in the previous levels. You still don't get a copy of the movie, and you're funding the movie? $600 to $2,500, you get 1 year cosmic membership on the membership platform CE5. Seating for 2 at the premiere. At least now, if you got $600, you can go with your significant other or loved one or whoever you like, get a date, to the premiere of this amazing film. $2,500 to $10,000. You get free tuition for a weekend 3-day workshop for 2 with Dr. Steven Greer. Must be redeemed within a year. VIP seating for 2. Great. You get a 3-day workshop with Steven Greer for $2,500 or up to $10,000. Now here's the big money, friends. $10,000 to $24,999. You get dinner for 2 with Dr. Greer and a small group the evening before the premiere. So you get to have dinner with Steven Greer for 10 grand. It costs 10 grand to have dinner with Dr. Steven Greer. And one might ask themselves, does this man have a bloated sense of self-importance that he thinks that people, they must do it? I mean, but does he think that having dinner with him is an experience worth $10,000 to $25,000? Great. For $25,000 to $125,000, you could get free tuition for a 1-week-long expedition with Dr. Greer, but you must meet the prerequisite requirements. Now we have $125,000 and above. You get a private weekend with Dr. Greer. Boy, that sounds shady. A private weekend with Dr. Greer at Star Retreat Center, Hot Springs, Virginia, for up to 8 people, including the donor. Includes lodging, but does not include travel or meals. Participants arrive Friday evening, stay Saturday and Sunday, and leave on Monday. You get a weekend with Dr. Steven Greer if you've got $125,000 or above. This whole thing just seems so slimy and gross to me. And you know what kind of people are doing this? The true believers who really think that this guy has some kind of ET or, extraterrestrial or UFO truth or knowledge. I don't think he does. And if he does, he's sure waited long enough to give it to us, right? 20 or more years, this guy has been running things like this, all about the money, friends. It's always about the money with this guy. And what can I say? He already did this one. He collected all this money for a free energy charity before. Now it's a free energy documentary this time. I cannot believe that this guy makes this much money doing this, but he is perhaps the world's most successful UFO alien grifter, in my opinion. I'm entitled to my opinion based on all available evidence. This guy's got nothing. He's got no so-called UFO truth, no true, actual, verifiable evidence. He's got a lot of BS stories. I'll give him that. This guy's full of BS stories. And if you're dumb enough to pay $125,000 to go to a weekend with this guy and listen to him bullshit for 3 days straight, you deserve to have to listen to this guy BS for 3 days straight. I would tell everyone that what I've decided to do is more research into Steven Greer's past money grabs, and we're going to do an update on the, I don't know what we're going to call it. We're going to something about, Dr. Steven Greer's money, maybe looking at Dr. Steven Greer's wallet, because he's got an awful lot of UFO dollars flowing in there, friends, an awful lot. Amazing. So here's what we're going to do. Last night was quite a show, and we did not read out the super chats. For those unaware, Lou Jimenez was here, and he was dropping all these bombs, and really he was letting loose on the UFO world, I guess. And I let him, and I apologize, but I did not want to interrupt him every time a super chat came in. So, wow, I didn't realize that we got so many yesterday. So we're going to read them all from yesterday. Today we got one. So if you are feeling generous, I'm not selling you. Oh, I got blurry like Bigfoot. I'm not selling you a $25,000 weekend with me, but we do accept super chats and, We put our hat out there. If people would like to support us, they can. It's not a requirement. All of our content is free here. But if you'd like to support the show and keep us doing this important work, there's a money button down there. If you're feeling generous, please do it now. We're going to read these super chats from yesterday, as well as the one from today. And thank you, kind and generous supporters, for helping us do this work. So yesterday we had Richard Crawley with a kind and generous $6.99. We had Spooky, who I keep forgetting I have to give a super chat fund, because Spooky does this to get my attention. She was letting me know that the thumbnail was sent. Welcome to the show with a kind and generous 99 cents super sticker. We have Comp Lizard, Stephen and Luis, $5 each for the realness. €10. Thank you. Now I got to send him $5 though. Come on. I hate when people do that. I feel obligated to actually do it. The Breeders Syndicate, $4.99. F the man. Get to the bottom of it, fellas. Thank you, the Breeders Syndicate. UFO John Doe, kind of generous, $9.99. So weird seeing you both together. Remember, this is yesterday. Nobody thought that me and Lou Jimenez would ever talk on a public live stream. We previously said a lot of not so kind things about each other, but isn't it interesting that after we put our differences aside and got to know each other a little bit, people are now saying you guys should do a show once a month together, and maybe I'll ask them to do that. I think it would be fun. I had a great time yesterday. Leah, with kind of generous $4.99 super chat, says, good to see this conversation happen. We all benefit from coalition building and cooperation. Grant Levac with a kind and generous $7.99 Australian says, great to see you two together sharing war stories on the topic that's impacted your lives. Love it. Good to see you, Lou. You're looking good, brother. Yeah. Lord Ludicrous, longtime show supporter, with a kind and generous $4.99 super chat says, I've been waiting for this over a year. Thank you guys for getting it together and having a great conversation. Bravo, and shoot for the stars. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. And tonight we had one from New Perspective DEC. No message, but a kind and generous super chat of $1.99. Thank you very much for your kindness, generosity, and support. Any more super chats for the night, I will share on the screen and thank. I'm sorry that I missed that one earlier today. And somebody asked me about the Dr. Steven Greer mask. Just so you're aware, that was pre-recorded. It was from a previous show that we did here, but I thought it'd be funny to include that. We have Reload with kind of generous $2 as also a member. Thank you for being a member. Reload says, thanks, Dr. Steven Greer. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and continued support of the show. And I want to thank all of you kind and generous benefactors who help us to continue to praise the cash. And we'll have Trixie thank you as well. Take it away, Trixie.
This is Trixie from Truth Seekers. Every time you generously donate to Truth Seekers, you will be entered into a raffle draw. The prize is a trip through my magic tunnel to Conspiracy Land. Thank you for your generosity.
Wow, a trip through a magic tunnel. Great. So we'll take comments and questions from the live chat for a while. Anybody have any comments or questions for me? Please put them all in all capital letters. Otherwise, I'll take some. Raz is back. Good to see you back again. I'm always happy, Raz. If I see a new name in the live chat, I take note of those new names. And I noticed you recently. And the fact that you came back for another show, it really, I'm glad to see that. Stephen, how much money do you need to pray for non-humans to shine their craft at us? Dr. Steven Greer needs a lot of money. I don't need any money. But we are going to be exploring this CE5 app. We're going to see if there's anything to it. Great shows, Stephen. Yeah, thank you, Mike. Good to see you back as well. And I see many people here. Arlene Atkins says, the enemy of my enemy is my ally. That's not always true. Quite honestly, if people have asked me, and this is, I stand by what I originally said about this Lou Jimenez. I thought a lot about him, and I believe that he was manipulated, used, and abused, quite frankly, by Lou Elizondo and others in that camp for some nefarious purpose, whose true purpose may be disclosed someday. Who knows? There's much more coming out, right? Chris says, Steven uses women as props. I'm calling the cops. Listen, I hope you're kidding. By the way, that's Intel Lady, and her channel is in the description of the video. And we're really friendly. So she offers to help me do funny things, and I will help her do anything that I can help her do. Yeah. And also, it's important that we take a moment to recognize milestones here. And I don't know if it was last night or earlier today, but we finally hit. And, you know, honestly, I'm a little disappointed that it's this low, but I'm glad for milestones. So we finally hit 6,000 subscribers, and that is something to celebrate, friends. So thanks to all of you. And by the way, that's a non-alcoholic beverage for me. Thanks to all of you who have subscribed and supported our show for this whole adventure. I really appreciate it. And to all the new subscribers, I'm glad you're here. Mr. Blood Vessel is asking, is he really a doctor? Yes, he is. To the best of my knowledge and recollection, I did a full background check on him, and he did go to college and medical school. I was sort of disappointed because there's so many fake doctors in the land of UFOs that I kind of assumed that he was going to be a fake doctor. But as I recall, he was a real medical doctor. Say no more, say no more. A nod's as good as a wink to a blind horse. I don't know. How old is your channel? Well, I'd have to look. 2 years old. You know, it's been a very slow, organic growth for us here. I started the channel. Let me see. Yeah, I started the channel in March of, March of 2020. But I didn't actually produce any shows until June of 2020. So that's the story, and I'm sticking to it. Yeah. It's been a very slow build, right? And along with the, oh, wow, look at that. That's very kind of you. Very generous. Salty Bits with a kind and generous $20. Love your avatar. I love the Muppets growing up. And Animal, especially. And while I was in rock bands, I had a drummer that always had an animal on his drum set, like in the front of it. I said, that looks ridiculous. Take that off for the shows. And he wouldn't. But thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support, Salty Bits. We much, much appreciate it. Mike, the doctor lawyer, is back. And B. Baker says, please subscribe to Intel Lady. She is awesome and funny. Yeah, I agree. Mike says, I'm a doctor lawyer. Yeah. Reload says, congrats. Thank you for the congratulations, right? And we said, B. Baker says, I'm so glad we all learned we are doctors after the Jonathan Reed episode. Yeah, we're all doctors. Just say you are and you're a doctor. It's great, B. Baker. Steve, do you have an opinion on gravity control of the Bell Die Glocke from the 1940s Germany or the ARV? Well, here's what I will say, Greg. Let me see. How do I say this? The Bell and the Glocke, there is some evidence for. And I'm Polish. Remember, where the Bell was supposed to be developed was Poland. So I've always really love that story, and I have somewhere several books about the Bell, and I have really dug deep into that story, and it's a combination of getting nowhere or getting breadcrumbs. There's a lot of breadcrumbs there, but apparently all of the people that worked on it were murdered, and there's some evidence of that. So the Bell or the Glocka story, I believe there's really, really something to that. Now, whether it was really a time travel device or an anti-gravity device, I don't know. What's clear is that they were clearly developing some kind of secret technology there, and that people were murdered, and then they blew up the tunnels and all of this stuff. It's a crazy story. Now, the ARV, I'm very much more skeptical of. Although I got to tell you, I love Mark McCandless artwork. However, what we get in the ARV story is a secondhand account, and people have tried to get to the person, this Brad Sorensen, who was supposed to be the person that told Mark McCandless these stories of seeing it, and we don't get him confirming that he did tell Mark McCandless that. That makes the whole story very suspect to me. And also, not like a nasty thing, but I have several times mentioned to alien scientists, why don't you build a scale model of this ARV and see if it'll actually float or anything? And I've challenged a few other physics friends of mine to actually build that, and nobody has. Mark McCandless claimed that it was completely and totally accurate mechanical drawing of how this craft operated. If that were true, somebody would have built a scale model of it and showed us an anti-gravity device, but nobody has. So I'm very, very skeptical of the ARV story. But do I love Mark McCandless's artwork? You're goddamn right I do. Mark McCandless was amazing, and I'm sad about what happened to him. For those unaware, he committed suicide. How many days sober now? I stopped counting, Jim, and I would be hard pressed to do it right now, because I got to go back to what was the 90, and then we hit the 120, but I can give you a very close estimate. Let me see here. We did that show last week. I don't know. I think it's 134 days. 134 days sober, but don't anybody get angry at me if I'm a few days off. 8 days ago, we posted the show 120 plus days sober, but at that point I was beyond 120 days. So I got to work it back out with a calendar. I think 134 days. And I just had a friend tell me this, and this is not really a friend at the cabin. By the way, I want to just give him a shout out. He knows his name, but Peter, if he's listening, and I don't think he'll mind me sharing this. I'm not going to give too many details, but got a message from a friend at the cabin. And what did he say? 1 second. Oh, okay. He said, I can't find it now. Well, essentially, he said that I looked pale before and sickly, and now I look like, much healthier. And I agree with him. I told him that drying out has been good for me, both physically and mentally. And I would highly recommend, especially if you feel you have a problem. And by the way, I am no doctor. Consult your doctor before making any choice that may affect your health. So, if you think you're having a problem, find help. First, find a medical doctor. B. Baker, Goofon is busy calculating the sobriety so he can call it out. Yeah. And I truly cannot believe this, but Goofon fat shamed Lou Jimenez, and he's done it before. He's done that before to Lou Jimenez, and he calls Anthony Fat Tony, Anthony from Unidentified S4, Fat Tony. Like, he just thinks it's acceptable to fat shame people. Great. And by the way, as far as I'm aware, that's against YouTube terms of service. Yeah. Yeah, sure. How's the third phase doc coming along? As soon as I'm finished with the broadcast tonight, I have written an introduction. So the documentary is done except for these two things. I have to do a video of myself explaining how this all started and the players, because this weird thought occurred to me. I'm editing the documentary video and I go, wait a minute. Like, what if somebody that doesn't understand who Third Phase of Moon or Rich is or I am watches this? Would they even know what the hell is going on? And then I realized, no, they wouldn't. So in order to make sure that it's good for a broader audience, I'm doing two little videos. First, at the end, that's easy to explain. I'm just doing a wrap up at the end. And then the beginning of it, I'm explaining who Third Phase is, who the debunkers in the video are, who I am, and who the goof-on is. And then they'll understand it as the film progresses. But I will say this. I talked to Lou Jimenez yesterday, and I know he's like a filmmaker, aspiring filmmaker, and all this. And I don't want people to have incredible expectations for this thing, because if I was really able to make a real documentary that would be on a streaming service about them, it would be worlds above what I'm going to release. Unfortunately, I don't have 3 months to edit this thing or produce it. I put a timeline on myself that it should take me no more than a week to do the editing for it. And remember, I'm here doing the show while I'm also doing the editing every day. So, but anyway, I have to do a short introduction piece and a wrap up. I'm going to record those tonight. The rest of the whole entire thing is done. So I'm hoping that doing those tonight will go well. I'll fly those in, and I'll have an announcement tomorrow about a release date. Now, that's another interesting thing. I've said it before. Rich does not have any permission from me to play clips from my show, and he did it tonight. I've warned him multiple times, don't play clips from my show, and he did it anyway. There was a point where I said he had permission to play whatever from my show that he wants. He no longer has permission. When you go on a public live stream and tell people that I may have pedophile friends and that may make me a pedophile, you lose the ability to use any of my material. I'm not giving him permission to use my material. If he is using it, he is using that material in violation of my warning to him not to. So anything that happens going forward, it's on him. And also, I find it very funny that Rich thinks it's okay to use my clips from my show under fair use, but the people, the slime balls that he works for, Third Phase of Moon, are constantly threatening people and copyright striking people. I wasn't aware, but I got quite an education. Third Phase of Moon has been threatening multiple content creators not to use their clips or they'll copyright claim them. Isn't that great? Rich can use things under fair use, but nobody's allowed to use Third Phase's shit. And there's a reason for that. It's because Third Phase doesn't want people using their clips to show everybody what liars they are. Great, absolutely great. And that will prove to you what kind of people these people are. Rich thinks he can use my clips. Nobody's allowed to use Third Phase, or you get a copyright claim and a strike against your channel. That's absolutely ridiculous. It's not fair use when he has previously slandered me. And you know what, DB Cooper? I've had enough of your shit. And you keep it up and you're out of here. I don't care. You want to come here and start shit? For all I know, you are rich, Mr. DB Cooper, because all you do, your only purpose here is to come here and defend that clown, right? Isn't that funny? You're the only one that comes here to defend him. And you're always in his live chat, right? Great. It's not fair use when he has used material from my show and slandered me. He said I have pedophile friends, and that might make me a pedophile, you dummy. Therefore, it's not fair use, and he doesn't have permission after slandering me like that to use my material. I heard Wilcock made a pair of flip-flops hover. Soon it will be a car. Yeah, he's well beyond his year. Remember, more than a year ago, David Wilcock told us all that we would have a hover car, and that hover car would be released. You know, they'd have a working prototype in a year. Where's the prototype, David Wilcock? No, this guy's talking to freaking squirrels out in his yard, making videos about talking to squirrels out in his yard, right? Yeah, well, go ahead. Give that clown your money. The liar. Great. He must love getting lied to. Because DB, look, here's what I'll say. We have facts and we have evidence. What do you say about Rich continually saying they never hoaxed anything. Then it was they never hoaxed anything in the past 5 years. Then he changed it to 3 years. You don't think, DB, that's moving the goalpost? First he said there's no proof they ever hoaxed anything, right? And he's been lying to everybody, telling people, I don't have any evidence. There's a 2-hour documentary about all the fraud they did, but I don't have evidence? Great, great, great. Truth Seekers, stand proud. Our kid, we got your back. You are squeaky clean and they hate it. I know. You know what it is? I'm boring. Like, I've been with the same woman for 20-something years, and I don't have any sex scandals that anybody can exploit. Like, you're right. I'm not squeaky clean. They could find some dirt, but they're too dumb to, probably. No, actually, there is none, really. There's things that people might twist, but yeah, I'm not a criminal. There's no sex scandals. There's nothing they can get me on. So what do? They tell everybody I may have pedo friends, and that might make me one of those too. Oh, and by the way, the documentary, DB Cooper, you're in it because you said some stupid things about Paul from out there. What was that about? I should interview you. Did you know that Rich from Goofon called him the P word? And you said some things like he hung out with those people because he had somebody from MUFON on his show. You have no evidence or proof that person was a convicted anything. So to say that is really damaging. And don't you dare ever say anything like that in my live chat, or you will get stricken out of here. But we have a free speech zone. People are free to support whoever they want to support, have whatever opinions they want to have. I just have to shake my head. Like, I didn't think he was going to dig a hole this deep for himself, the dummy. But good for him. Like, he thinks that this is a good idea. To keep doubling down and tripling down and saying they never hoaxed anything, they haven't hoaxed it in 5 years, they haven't hoaxed anything in 3 years. Last week was a hoax. Roswell AI pictures was a hoax. I don't care. Rich made a video claiming that they're cleared of the hoax. Bullshit. Oh, they said they agreed with Michael Schratt. So they're cleared of any hoax. Why did they title it Roswell AI Pictures? Why would they title it that if they didn't believe it was? They did that to get clicks and views, and they were deceptive. Putting a question mark at the end doesn't excuse you from BSing people and manipulating people and clickbaiting people deceptively to get them to click on your video. It's still deceptive practices, Rich. Jesus. Just put a question mark, and that absolves us for this clickbait nonsense, right? It's so stupid. Johnny Southside, why the hate unless it's manufactured? I'm not sure what you're talking about. If you're talking about me being hateful, we were discussing somebody who told everyone on a public live stream that I may have pedophile friends and that might make me a pedophile. So if I'm angry, now you know why. I have a wife and children, and there's other very important reasons why I can't have people going on public live streams saying shit like that. All right. Yeah, I agree with that one. He doesn't deserve the oxygen. He sure doesn't deserve any of it, right? I don't know what you're talking about. Manipulating on side for side. You got to be a little clearer, right? You're bringing it up the first time here. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. And if you like, I'll play the clip. Do you want me to play the clip? I'll go get it for you. And you can see what he said. And then tell me why I'm being angry unjustly, right? Just clickbait headlines. It's just sad. Yeah. And then I love how Rich says, I've never done anything positive for the UFO world. As if shoveling garbage into the UFO world for 20 years is doing something positive. That's not positive. That's making money shoveling garbage. But you know what? I've made my peace with all of this, and whatever happens next, I hope that the universe will reward those who told the truth and punish those who lie. That's my hope for this whole thing. And oh, geez, where does this come from? Here's another. Bob, do you want me to play the clip? It's in the next documentary. Multiple times I put it in there. You can watch the clip of him saying that shit about me in the documentary. Then you can watch the clip of him calling Paul from the Out There channel the same thing. And in both cases, we were people critical of third phase of moon. So I guess, Bob Berkins, if you support that, you think that's okay. That Rich should be able to call anyone critical of third phase of moon that word with absolutely no evidence, absolutely no facts. Do you know how damaging that is to do to somebody? Even to suggest that? But nobody's supposed to be pissed off, right? Nobody's supposed to be pissed off, right? DB Cooper, I get it, Steve. I really do. I think a 5-minute conversation goes longer way than days of chat. No. Oh, that's the other thing. This dummy is running around telling people that I'm saying, oh, just quit working for third phase and then you could come and be in our group. No, first of all, there's no group. I'm a lone wolf here for the most part. Do I have some people I'm friendly with? Sure, but there's no group, Rich. And you, dummy Rich, would never, ever, I don't care what he says, I don't care what he does, he will never, ever be welcome anywhere near me because of the P comments alone. But we can add to that the fact that he made a video making fun of my disabled eye. For those unaware, I have a paralyzed eye. And he thought it would be a good idea to make fun of my paralyzed eye. For just the P comment alone, he would never, ever be welcome anywhere near my circle again. Rich was well aware that I have a wife and children and that I volunteer for children's charities. And he did that on purpose. He even said he did it to trigger me. He said he did it to trigger me. Well, congratulations, you dumbass. I'm triggered, right? No, he didn't trigger me. He pissed me off. I can't have people saying shit like that about me. I have a wife and children and various other reasons, even if I didn't. Even though I was a single man, like you can't have people saying that about you on the internet. And he tries to weasel out of it. I didn't call you that. I set an example. No, you said, what if I have pedo friends? Would that make me one? You implied that I had P friends. And that might make me one. Same exact thing, same context, just didn't call me it directly. Congratulations. Isn't it funny, this third phase of Moon and Rich from Goofon, they both like to do things in a manner in which they can weasel out of things. That's a frickin' weasel does that. Weasels do what they do. Well, we did title our video Lost Roswell Images, but we didn't believe it was a Roswell image, so it wasn't a hoax. No, that's a weasel thing. That's a weasel thing. A weasel does that. Just like Rich. Well, I didn't call him that. I didn't call him that. No, he just suggested I have friends that are that, and that might make me one too. Where is his evidence? Show me a criminal background check of any of my friends that proves that they have some problem with children. He can't. So he shouldn't have said that. It's very, very simple. But he did, because he's stupid. And here's another thing. This is a very important point. Rich is an employee of Third Phase of Moon. I just figured this out. This is great. So Rich has nothing. He is a broke-ass loser, right? And has even said publicly that he doesn't care. He doesn't care. He can say whatever the hell he wants because he has nothing, right? But Third Phase has assets, and he's working for them, disparaging me because I covered Third Phase of Moon. So that could become a problem for them if they don't fire him immediately for doing those pedo comments about both myself and another content creator. That could become a huge problem for them. Yeah. I agree, Chris, and thank you. Yeah, exactly. Third Phase should say what their policy was on faking videos, but they say it was mistakes they made. Sure. And again, I don't care what anybody says. If you stand in front of a camera and pretend you're in the Philippines when you're really in Hawaii, that's not a mistake. That's intentional deception. Was it a mistake to intentionally deceive people? Sure. After they got caught, suddenly that was a mistake. But while they were doing it, it was intentional hoaxing and misdirection and deception and manipulation, because that's what they do. And, the fact that we live in a world where I even have to argue with somebody over the credibility of Third Phase of Moon and the jokers working for them. After all, what a Dark Hour Paranormal just had a fake Marine on his show that claims that he had space battles on Mars, right? And I have to argue credibility with these people, Rich from Goofon, who's running around calling everybody pedos, right? With no proof or no evidence, who's telling everybody I'm a liar with no proof or no evidence that I ever lied. Great. The fact that I have to argue with anybody over whether Third Phase of Moon is credible or not. But here's the thing. Here is why I'm glad that we're going to have 4 hours of documentary after this second one comes out. And from now on, anytime anybody asks me about Third Phase of Moon, I'm going to say, if you really want to laugh your ass off about how fake Third Phase of Moon is and all the people that work for them making silly excuses for them and looking like idiots, watch these 2 documentaries. I have heard only good things about the first one, and I'm telling you the second one's better. It's so much better. It's going to be awesome. Yeah. So, Mysterion, I want you to come on the show and talk about this. Can you do that for me? Right? Mysterio Eon says, I presented a fake video to Goofon as a fake. He then gave it to Third Phase of Moon as a real video, and they played it and even discussed engine wash, etc. It was a bicycle red light taped to my ceiling pendant. Mysterio Eon get me the video and stand by after this broadcast for me. I gotta, maybe we can jump that into this new thing. Can we do that? I would appreciate it. Mystery Eon, I have all the Twitter messages. You got to, I'll talk to you on Facebook after the show. We got to put that in. We could use one more hoax that they perpetrated. So you're saying that you told Rich it was a fake video. He gave it to them and they pretended that they didn't know it was fake. Great. Yes, Pepper's Ghost. They've used that multiple times. They've used it multiple times. So what can I say, friends? We got a lot of editing to do. Yeah, it doesn't matter. DB Cooper is saying, well, we all know you're not one of those P words. Great. It doesn't matter. What about the people that don't know me and don't know that? You can't say that about people without evidence or proof. You just can't do it. And by the way, I'm going to send a letter to Third Phase of Moon, and I want to know what disciplinary actions they're taking against their employee, Rich from Third Phase of Moon, for openly calling people pedos in their defense. He did that defending them. Do they condone that as their company policy, that if somebody's critical of your company, your employees can run around calling them pedos? Or do they fire him over that? Right? Do I think they're going to? No, they're going to make excuses, just like they make excuses for all their hokey ass, fake ass shit. Right? Great. All right, we're going to bounce on out of here, friends. I do appreciate everybody for being here. We're going to have another great show for you tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with some very special surprises. And I invite you to be to also follow me on Twitter for all the latest on the show. It's at Stephen Cambion, just my name on Twitter. And I have to remind everybody of two things. First, if you're listening in audio podcast land, please do go on over to YouTube and hit that search button, the magnifying glass. Put Truthseekers, one word, in there. You'll see me, the strange guy with sunglasses. Go to that channel, smash the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and you too will know when we're doing a live show. You can hear we have all this interaction with the audience. It's a great time, and we'd love for you to be here for the live tapings. If you're listening to the audio podcast, you're listening to the replay, and we'd much prefer you come over here and be a part of the live experience. You are most welcome. I could also remind everybody to please do like, comment, subscribe, and share these videos. It really does help us raise in the search engines and do a little better with the views, and it increases our YouTube pennies. So, and again, not that I'm complaining, we love our host here. But I will be starting, somebody asked me about this. Odyssey is much more of a free speech platform. So anytime that we have something very controversial, like that Third Phase of Moon documentary, that they may try to copyright strike or, other censor, Third Phase of Moon tried to censor that documentary about them off of YouTube. In fact, they didn't try, they did. And I still have to make a decision because I may upload it and see if they're going to copyright claim me. But I have to think about that. Do I really want to risk a copyright claim or a lawsuit from those clowns? Not really. I mean, I guess I'm content to leave it on Odyssey, but here's where the playing field is not fair. Because if that video, let's take a look. Let's take a look at what that documentary is up to. Now, people are uploading it all over, but I'm just going to talk specifically about my link, which is the primary link to that. It got 2,500 views. If it was on YouTube, I would say it would have gotten 10,000 or more views. And so it's not very fair of them. They're still censoring us. They censored us off of YouTube. It's not very fair of them to do that. Rich gets to lie through his teeth on YouTube And we have to put the truth on Odyssey so that they can't copyright claim it and get the video taken down. It's very disappointing. But I would encourage you. By the way, I've done something else. In the description of this video is the link to the Third Phase of Fake documentary, The Hoax Files, Third Phase of Moon Exposed. The link to that, it's a free documentary. It's for educational purposes only. And I got to tell you, if you want to have a laugh riot, pop some popcorn, and look at the history of these fake fraud losers and all of the fake nonsense that they have posted on YouTube over the years. We've got fake CGI aliens. We've got them pretending, getting their 4-year-old son to help them grift for fake UFO money. You know, stand there and pretend you see an alien, and then they put a CGI alien in the scene with their son. Who uses their son to scam people for money that they didn't earn with fake videos? Third Phase of Moon does that, apparently. And the proof of all of that is in the documentary. It's in the description of the video. And soon going forward, after we release the second one, by the way, there may be a third one. We're only up to the last 5 years of fake shit. They got plenty more. But after we release this second one, I'm just gonna send people the links to that. And anytime Rich says anything about me that's disparaging, I'm just gonna say, do you know why he's saying that? Have you seen this documentary, both of them? Here you go. That's why he's saying that. Because he lied through his teeth so many. Oh, this next one's brutal. This next one is brutal about how many times Rich specifically has lied through his teeth about Third Phase. It's awesome. Can't wait to drop it. So I'm going to go, friends, and I'm going to get my editing hat on. And I'm going to get this new film done for you. And like I said, I think this one's much, much better. And there's going to be some squirming going on after this because they're going to have to invent new lies, and they're going to have to make new excuses for all this shit. Remember, Rich said they haven't ever been caught hoaxing anything. There's no proof. There's no evidence. Then he says, you can't prove they hoaxed anything in the last 5 years. And in this new documentary, we prove it several times that they themselves filmed and hoaxed a hoax several times in the past 5 years. It's in there. Great. So I'm going to bounce on out of here. I want to thank all of our kind and generous benefactors. I want to thank Spooky for the excellent artwork. As always, I want to thank all of you great live chat participants. I'm going to go edit, and I will be back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So until next time, friends, my name is Steven Cambian. Good night, and God bless all of you, especially you, Third Phase and Goofon. You're going to need divine intervention considering what's coming. God bless you all.